Hi, good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy 2025. It is good to be alive and to be well. We are here, back here in 2025. We had closed out 2024 and God has been good to us. And we're here in 2025. I want to thank you, everyone who has spent the year with us in 2024. And we are here and we thank you for coming back in 2025 to spend time with us on this media where we are each Friday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, where we share in our podcast. This year, we will be a little bit different. This year, we are actually building bridges, not walls. So everything we talk about, it's in order to build a bridge and not a wall. I am back with my co-host, Dr. Siegfried Howell. Dr. Howell is a master life coach. He is a relationship coach and consultant, and he's also the founder of MEI Coaching and Consulting, Dr. Siegfried Howell LLC. And Dr. Howell has been all over the country and in other countries talking on relationship matters. And when we think about relationships, relationship is not just about the intimate side of it. Relationship is in your team, at home, and everywhere you go. You develop a relationship. So we're going to be talking this morning. And I am yours truly, Dr. Janice Brooks. I am a leadership consultant, a certified Maxwell coach, speaker, and trainer. And I'm also a life strategist, helping you to grow your life, connecting people to purpose. I'm also the CEO and founder of SaaS Solutions, where we do professional training, team empowerment, and leadership development. Connect with us here on any of the social medias, or you can hop right over to our website, drjanicebrooks.com, and connect with us. At the end of the program, we will give you the different handles where you can connect with us so that we can help you in your endeavors to build bridges and not walls. And so this morning, as we start, good morning, Dr. Howell. Thank you so much again.
Happy New Year to you. It's amazing how fast this last year went.
You are absolutely right. And here we are again. So we want to welcome everyone this morning to Building Bridges, Not Walls. And this is where we explore how cultivating honesty and transparency can really transform our lives and also the way we lead and also the way we live. And let's think about it. We live in a world where increasingly divided by misinformation, miscommunication, as Dr. Howell will tell you later on, and even fear. And the power of honest leadership becomes even more crucial. So today we are diving deep into how transparency in our relationship and in our leadership can help us to break down walls, build bridges, and foster trust and understanding. Whether we're leading with a team, navigating our personal issues and circumstances, our connections, or just seeking to understand how our own leadership journey affect others. And this is the conversation we're going to be having today. And we want you to stay with us. So let's dive right into our discussion this morning. And I think of this question: what are the key challenges leaders face when they're trying to balance both honesty and transparency? And how can they navigate those challenges while not compromising their authenticity, because it's a thin line many times in trying to please one set of persons. We are displeasing ourselves and even displeasing our creator. So we want to look at how we can navigate those challenges without compromising. And if I were to go first, Dr. Howell, I believe personally that the challenge often lies in the tension between being honest and maintaining relationships. That's where everything lies. You sometimes don't tell the full story, or you say a little part of it and it may appear that you are not honest. But I remember sometime in last year we spoke a little bit on this topic, and I talked clearly that many times information, it has to be on a case by case basis. It's a needs to know point in time, and you have to be able to assess how you disseminate that information so that it comes across in the way that we need it to come across. And leaders sometimes hesitate to speak the full truth, or out of fear of damaging someone's ego and morale. This is one of the main reasons we're in our team and we fail to speak the full truth because we fear that someone is going to get hurt. And because of this, they don't share the truth. They risk creating a culture of mistrust. If you don't tell me the real truth, then I'm not going to trust you. Um, so here's what I think. One way to navigate this is kind of rethinking and reframing. So we want to have to think how we define honesty, and we're going to have to think how we frame honesty. So here's what I'm saying. Instead of framing it as telling the harsh truth, because honesty should not be a harsh truth, honesty should be the truth. We can frame it by sharing an honest perspective, and not just an honest perspective, a constructive perspective, one that does not beat down the person, but one that offers solutions, not heighten the problem. So for example, we can say something, but we are not saying it in a way that causes a person hurt or harm. Uh, a simple example, we want to say this is a failure. We come in and something is not going wrong, and we say this is just a total failure. Here's how we can say that and improve it so that things are not going right. It appears that we are on that failure path, but we don't have to be so harsh in being honest. So here's how we can improve that. We can create a more transparent dialogue. For example, we can say, guys, we need to get on a different track. We need to change this trajectory right now. And we can explain why we need to change this trajectory. We're actually saying the same thing. We're heading down the path of failure, and cause people to feel as if they have not been trying. They're being pushed down. But we can say the same things, but we say it in a way that creates trust, and we don't risk hurting or harming anyone. Dr. Howell, over to you.
You covered a lot of ground right there. So let me look at it from this particular standpoint. As a leader, you have to balance honesty and transparency. You can be overly honest and overly transparent. For example, if you are a pilot and you're flying a plane and you see that there's going to be some difficulty ahead, you do not panic all of the passengers. You can be honest and transparent, but you don't have to go in depth. And I believe Mark 14 tells a story of how Jesus had his 12 disciples, but he had three that he always pulled aside to give them more information. Those were the ones that he leaned on to help him get through difficult times. And so you might have varying layers of transparency based on the needs of the people around you. Now, in no way am I saying be deceitful, but what I am saying is be honest, But like you said last year, know the situation, know how much transparency is needed based on the matter at hand and how it's going to significantly impact you and the people that are involved in that particular process. But if you want to be a person who's honest, like you said, if a person is not being as successful as you want them to be, you as a leader can say, well, let's celebrate the win today. Tomorrow, let's readjust some things. So we will address that tomorrow. So if someone asks you, hey, how did I do today? You can say, you know what, let's address the wins today and let's celebrate those wins. Tomorrow's the new day, and we'll break it down and see what needs to be adjusted. That way you don't have to break people down and take away their wins. You give them the motivation and the momentum that they need to keep pushing forward. A lot of times people say, well, they asked me, so I had to tell them. You can reframe it. You can be nice. You can be compassionate. You can be empathetic. You don't have to be mean just because you want to be honest. Sometimes the meanest thing you can do is to be overly honest with someone, because you can break them down, you can take all the wind out their stomach and cause them to give up and feel disheartened.
That was such an excellent response. And I see how both of our answers just tie in perfectly. I had to post there that you don't have to break people down in order to break the circumstances and the challenges down. And I like that so much because oftentimes what we do, we see people and not the circumstance. The focus is always on you. You always do this, you never do that, but we don't address the circumstance that is creating the problem. So we're harsh on the person and we put aside the circumstance. Today, we are talking, ladies and gentlemen, we are building bridges, not walls. And we're talking about cultivating honesty and transparency, both in life and leadership. That's our topic today. And with me, as usual, is Dr. Siegfried Howell. So, Dr. Howell, I want to look at the second question, which is how does the fear of vulnerability influence the level of transparency in leadership? And what steps leaders can take to create a culture where openness is encouraged without fear and judgment? And this is such a great question. And I would say without judgment and without backlash. It reminds me of many times we pray and we said we are praying against backlash.
Mhm.
But it's not just in the religious world, it's also in life and in leadership. When you're transparent, many times you can expect a backlash. When you're open, when you encourage that culture of openness, sometimes it comes with a backlash. But I want to say today that vulnerability can sometimes be looked down as a weakness, but it is not. In reality, and in life and leadership, vulnerability is a superpower. It is something that can advance us and push us forward. When we seek to demonstrate vulnerability, we actually open the door for others to do the same. It's as if we're leading to the front of that door, we're opening that door and we're allowing others to follow, to come in. And so the fear of vulnerability often comes from the idea that you're going to be judged. And so you create a culture that pulls back instead of go forward. And what we want to create is a culture where people feel emotionally safe. And this can completely shift the dynamic of the whole organization when people feel safe. I believe this word safe is one of the most powerful words that we can think of when we think of life and leadership. If you're leaving your home, you want to know you come back safe. If you go into the workplace, you want to know that I'm safe here. I can speak without having repercussions. And so leaders should have this main goal in life, to shift mindsets in a positive direction. I give you a quick example today. So instead of you believing as a leader that you have all the answers, because we don't, no leader has all the answers. They can model this sense of curiosity and this sense of openness. For example, they can say, well, I don't have the answer to that right now. I don't have the solution to that right now. But together, we will figure it out. Together, we will get this thing done. And when the leader is able to say that, the team, or even in your home, the other person will see that, well, this person is not a know-it-all. This person don't know everything. So let's get this done. Let's do this together. And this really encourages and builds trust, because the focus is not on perfection. The focus is now on togetherness, collaboration. We are going to get this done, and we're going to get it done together. Dr. Howell.
Once again, you covered quite a bit, so I'll look at it from a slightly different perspective. I remember when we were in COVID, and one of the news reports was about how everybody had to stay in place. You had to stay at home, and you had to quarantine yourself and keep yourself. You had your little you had your little groups that you had to stay in. So if you were in a family of four, you stayed with those family of four, but you didn't go out to different places. And I remember the leaders telling everyone you would get in trouble if you went out and you cause other people to get sick. But then you heard reports of like the Prime Minister of England and several people in his cabinet coming down with COVID because they were out partying when everybody was supposed to be in their house. They're out partying in groups. And a couple of senators and some representatives in America also had the same problem. And so a lot of times leaders want to be autocratic. They want to have all the power. And when you take that type of role, people expect you to have all the answers. But if you're a transformative leader, and if you're a servant leader, and if you are a leader who wants to help everyone, you will also understand you don't have all the answers. So to me, a leader is a person who has a vision, but they may not have all the answers, but they know how to put people on their team that can get them the answers they need to move forward. And so vulnerability to me is accepting the fact that you do not have all of the answers, and you're willing to let people know you don't have all the answers. But like you said, I will get back to you. I will find someone to help you with that problem. I will find someone to answer that question for you. And what that does is it shows the people under you, your subordinates, that you're willing to lead by example. It shows that you don't have all the answers. And that's not a form of weakness. That's a form of transparency. And it lets people know, hey, I may not have the answers, but I will try, like my leader, to find someone to be innovative and find the answers because he is leading by, or she is leading by example. The next thing a leader can do is to cultivate a safe space. Now, it's easy to say you have an open door policy, but when people come and tell you something you don't want, is there going to be any type of repercussion? Are they going to lose their job? Are they going to be sidelined? Are they going to be stonewalled? Are they going to be stopped from advancing up? And so people need to know that there is a safe space where you can give your ideas, give your feedback, so that when the company needs help and you say, hey, we need ideas, people aren't scared to give their ideas, because if it fails, they know all of that pressure comes on them, so they might lose their job. So leaders need to show that they aren't know-it-alls, show that they have empathy, show that they have an open door policy, and show that there is a safe space where ideas, views, and expressions can be cultivated.
Excellent points, Dr. Howell. I believe we are actually on point with our responses this morning. And as we said, we are talking about building bridges, not walls. And that's our focus for 2025. Because many times in life and in leadership, when we think we're building bridges, we're actually building walls. And our team members, our personal relationships in our home, they suffer because they are challenged to climb over those walls that we have built. But think about a bridge. I'm looking at the nearest bridge to me, and it has two ways. There's a set going up and a set coming down, and we all go along our business with ease, and we feel safe because we are not crashing into each other. It's the same thing with life. When we build bridges, we allow people to feel safe, to go about their lives and their businesses, knowing that they have a place on this planet. They leave their homes. They are in their workplaces to make a difference, to shine. But when we build for them a wall, then we pressure them, we put them against that wall. And many of them, because of that pressure, they are not able to stay, they leave. So, Dr. Howell, my next question is on relationships. So, I'm going to give you the first chance to talk on this one today, because the question we are asking this morning is um, when we think about the personal relationships, and we can go over on the professional relationships, in what way can cultivating transparency foster a deeper sense of trust and collaboration? And this is the meat of it. What are the risks if transparency is taken too far?
Hey, I like going after you because you you give me some good ideas. With this particular one, what I'm looking at from this is you have the ability to build trust in relationships. And if in any type of relationship, whether it's intimate or whether it is professional, whether it's social, there's a give and take. You have to build trust regardless. How do you build trust? You build trust over time. In other words, let your yes be yes, let your no be no. That comes from the Bible also. And what that means is this: if you say you're going to do something, get it done. If you say you can't get it done, then don't let people find out later on that you were the expert in that area and you're just in your feelings or just being mean and you didn't want to help out, because that sheds a bad light on you. And as a team player, as a collaborator, and as a person who has the ability to work with other people. And so you want to make sure that you build trust in any relationship that you have. And like I said, that opens up the ability for people to be more transparent. If you think of a first date, you don't want to be so honest and so transparent that you scare that person away because you tell them all of the deepest, darkest secrets and all of your bad habits to the point that they did not get a chance to decide whether or not they want to invest this time and energy into a person who has so many flaws. Now, we all have flaws, but you don't want to hear everyone's flaws up front because it's overwhelming and scary. Because the thing about relationships is this: the closer we get as friends or in an intimate relationship, the more we see the dark, down, dirty of people. And the same thing in leadership. When you are transparent, the more transparent you become, the more your weaknesses show. But on the flip side, even if you're autocratic, people see your weaknesses, just they're just not saying anything because they're scared of repercussions. So we all show our weaknesses. So building trust is very important. Now, I want to share something because you were talking about building bridges, and the bridges around you have two ways, up and a down, or a left and a right. I also have a bridge in my area, and it's a one lane bridge. And so when you pull up, you have to decide who got there first, who's going to go, and who's going to wait. And then over time, because a lot of times what happens is when one car goes, a whole bunch of cars want to go. And so this person is stuck sitting here waiting for a while. And that to me is what a relationship is like. Sometimes one partner gets the most say in at that particular time. And then the other time, that other partner gets the most say at that time. And so you might have three, four, five cars coming through at that time, and then only one car gets to come through at this time. And so it's situational, but it is a form of collaboration. I have to look at you to see if you're going to allow me to come through. You have to look at me to see if I'm going to allow you to come through. And that to me is trust building. Even though I don't know you and you don't know me, because we're just people in cars trying to get to where we're trying to get in life. And that to me is a metaphor for life in itself. Sometimes you get to go through, sometimes you got to wait. And as a leader, you have to make sure that you understand it's not always you getting through. Sometimes you have to wait and evaluate the needs of your subordinates so you can decide and strategize how you're going to move forward. Because if you're moving forward and everyone wants to move sideways, even if it's 1 or 2 degrees from forward, you're going to end up in different locations over a long period of time. So you have to see what the people under you are trying to achieve. Because even though everyone has a job, we all have sub needs and wants that we're trying to get to in life. We all need have that type of happiness that we're trying to get. And the job isn't the end all be all. So leaders also have to know and remember that people have needs and wants outside of the job. So empathy is part of building trust.
Wow. Dr. Howell, thank you so much. You have poured out so much. As a matter of fact, you took most things that I was going to say this morning. And so I'm happy that I put you first on this question because you actually shared what I was going to share in a nutshell. But ladies and gentlemen who are watching us today, we thank you for joining us. We are on three medias this morning. We are on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, and we are on my YouTube channel, Dr. Jan People Builder. That's my YouTube channel. If you have not yet subscribed to that channel, I ask you to go over when you're done here and subscribe. It's Dr. Jan People Builder. Thank you so much for subscribing so that you can be the next one to see that notification coming up when we're next on the media, because we not just are here on Friday mornings, we share other things on the channel. This year, we're actually building bridges, not walls.
Mhm.
That's what we'll be talking about. All our topics this year will be around building bridges and not walls. But Dr. Howell, you were so excellent in answering that question. And I'm just going to add just a little bit because I actually also share with what you said, that transparency in relationship uh, will and must create an environment where people feel heard and seen for who they truly are. And it's not just for their roles, I must say, or their titles, because sometimes we tend to believe that because the person is the CEO or they're the director of this or they're the that, so when we see them come and say something, we must all stand at attention and we must listen. But when there's a team member who has a valid point, we overspeak them, we don't listen carefully to what they're saying. And that team member could be the person to build that bridge. That team member, even though they don't have a significant title, let me say that, or a significant role in other person's opinion, they may be overlooked. So when we have this kind of transparency where we make people feel heard and seen, it encourages trust because there's a shared understanding, not just of what the person is saying, but of the motivations, the challenges, and ultimately the goals of the team or the goals of the household. So, but let's look at it the other side. When transparency becomes unfiltered or excessive, you talked about that, it really can be overwhelming. You talk about the first date, and it can literally becomes like unnecessary drama, if we want to say that. So really the key is to be mindful of the context. Sharing our feelings is something that is personal, especially in a relationship. And so we have to be careful not to unload every detail to the person, whether we're at work or at home. Sometimes someone might come home from work and you say, "How was your day?" "Oh my God." And you just unload all the details of the day on them. That's not what it should be. That's not transparency.
Mhm.
That's excessive. That's like an overload. And it's the
Mhm.
same thing in the workplace. Somebody might ask you, "How was the meeting today?" Ooh, and you unload every little detail of the meeting. So it's a thin line. We have to know about what I started with first. The case by case, as you said, the need to know point in time basis. Is this the right time for me to unload this information? Is this being considered transparency? And so the goal, we have to come down to the goal of what we want to do is to be truthful, is to be transparent. It is not oversharing. And so, in the final analysis, leaders should and can encourage their team by showing that it's okay to be real, but it also requires setting healthy boundaries around what is shared with them. And I like this last part because you may go to a management or a leadership meeting. I have been there. And in management and leadership, there are things that are shared that you don't need to go back and say today. We're working on this, we're working through this. You don't need to go back and say this. And so it's not that you're not transparent or you're not honest with your team. It's just a need to know basis. It's just a point in time basis that you will use. And so those healthy boundaries, setting that boundaries as to what you say and what you don't say, is very, very important. Dr. Howell, we're coming down to wrap up time, and I have two questions, and we're going to go through these two questions so quickly. Uh, because we want to come away with strategies. So my next question is a how question, because I want to have this answered as to what can be done. So how can leaders model honest communication in their team, in their environment, where there is significant power dynamic? And what impact does this have on the team morale and effectiveness? And I'm going to go first because I believe that leaders often think their role is to shield the team from uncomfortable truth. I did a post earlier this week and I talk about the being comfortable in uncomfortable situation, because sometimes leaders believe that they must shield their team from uncomfortable truths or difficult realities. But in essence, honesty in power dynamics work to foster, it's like a breeding ground for trust and respect. And I'm going to give you an example. So instead of giving like vague reassurances, a leader could acknowledge challenges openly, saying, we're facing some tough decisions right now, but here's how we're going to move together. And this approach shows a level of vulnerability without compromising their authority. It creates a culture where people feel valued, even in times of uncertainty, because we live in uncertain times. Every company faces challenges of different sorts. And when they do this, they will understand that leadership isn't just about being infallible. It's about leading and leading with integrity, leading through adversity. I remember our leader, John Maxwell, he did a series, Leading Through Crisis. Leading through adversity is the same thing. We as leaders have to be able to know how to lead through adversity. And so team morale improves because transparency empowers employees to trust their leader and feel more involved in the decision making process. So there's a right way and there's a wrong way. What do you add to that, Dr. Hoyle, before we come to our final question?
Well, in the last question, you spoke about giving people too much information And I believe I spoke about the first date also. And I call it emotional dumping. So you don't want to emotionally dump on anyone, whether you're a leader or a subordinate. So what you need to do, like you said, is to have effective boundaries. And the leader can model that so that people know what is expected. Maybe the leader can give guidelines as to how to help each other. Maybe the leader can have leaders under him that can help him do that situation. In the Bible, it talks about Moses. Moses, when he got married to Zipporah's father realized that he was overstressing himself with all those disciples. I mean, with all those children of Israel. And he told him, hey, you need to get some leaders to help you lead those people. So Moses took heed and he started to relinquish some of his power to some leaders so that he wasn't overburdened. And that is a problem with an autocratic leader. They, you get all the glory, but with that comes a lot of stress. And with a lot of stress comes stroke, heart attack, um, burnout and everything that comes with it. But if you relinquish a little bit of your power, you will find that you get more people following you because now they have purpose. Now they have a vision. Now you can get some ideas that can help you enhance your goal and your vision for the future because there are always ideas that you can learn from. And even from the smallest person in your team, they can have an idea that can totally revolutionize what you're trying to do. And by relinquishing some of your power, you can increase the trust in your group because people know that you're not power hungry. People know that you're not a person who wants all the glory. And so now that will lead to greater engagement. So as a leader can model honesty in communication, as a leader can model relinquishing some of his power or her power, as a leader can show that they're willing to give honest feedback, but it's not hurtful, harmful feedback, and it's not emotional dumping on what you did for that particular project. It is giving the feedback in a way that keeps the momentum going, but also encourages you to move forward.
Excellent. Dr. Howell, before we go to the final question, again, I want to thank everyone who's joining us today on this episode, Building Bridges, Not Walls. And I just want to let you know that if you found these insights valuable, we encourage you to take a moment in your own life to reflect. Where in your life or leadership could be more honesty and transparency? How could this make a difference for you? This is 2025. We're stepped out of the old and into the new. And how can you create spaces that invite others to do the same? Reflection. Take a moment to do that. What we're calling persons to this year is calling persons to really reflect on their own lives. How can they build the bridge? And if this conversation resonated with you, as I said before, please don't forget to subscribe, share, and even leave a review or a comment. Let's keep building those bridges, one honest conversation at a time. So let's wrap up the last question, Dr. Howell. Building bridges often requires confronting uncomfortable truth. And we want to just know what role this plays in addressing systematic issues or injustices within the organizations that we are or that we hear about. And how can leaders really approach these sensitive topics without alienating others? And I just want to wrap up because we're over time. Honesty about systematic issues or injustices is crucial to creating real change anywhere. It is really crucial. But addressing these topics sometimes can feel like walking through a trial, like we're on trial, especially when the conversation involves people who may feel defensive or they may feel guilty. So the key is to, again, where we started, to frame and reframe the conversation as a shared responsibility. rather than an accusation. So, for example, and I'm going to give this quick example so that you can wrap up.
Okay.
Leaders can approach these issues by saying, simple, this is what we're facing as an organization. And this is how we can all be part of the solution. It's about calling out, it's not about calling out individuals, but it's addressing the system that enables harmful behavior or attitude. I say it again because I said it earlier. We sometimes call out people without addressing the systems that is causing the behaviors or the attitude. By acknowledging the discomfort and inviting others into that dialogue, shared responsibility, leaders really can help to create an environment where the issue is seen as something to solve together rather than a divisive force. So, this is what we want to see in the workplace. We want to see, and in the home, we want to see, as the example says, approaches that says we can do this together. We are all a part of this solution. It's not about calling it out. You always do this, you never do that. Or you are the problem here. We have to address the issues, the situations firsthand, whether it's systems, structures, attitudes, behaviors. Those are what we're going to approach as we walk into 2025 and beyond. We're building bridges, not walls. Dr. Howell, your final words.
All right, I'm going to wrap this up as quickly as possible. So I'm going to speak in my Caribbean speed. Okay, so as we said before, a leader is a person who has a vision, who doesn't necessarily know everything. But because they're standing back and looking from a vantage point, a lot of times they can see the blatant and the hidden problems. And then what they can do is to hold people accountable, and so that you can address the problem and move forward with meaningful change. So how do you do that? I would say there are three ways you can do that. The first way is to educate and align. Sometimes something as simple as a booklet, a pamphlet, a video can train and align people. And that way you don't have to have a lot of lengthy conversations about policies and things that need to happen. The second thing that you can do is to have inclusive dialogue, get everyone's perspective as to what's happening. I remember when I was an education teacher in high school, no one ever asked janitors' opinion, but the janitors moved throughout the whole school and they heard every conversation, they heard everything, and they had a perspective. They had the pulse of the school. They knew everything that was going on. So if you have inclusive dialogue where everyone on your team gets to get a voice, you will hear perspectives that can help push you forward faster. And the last thing is, don't always spend time focusing on the problem. Start to focus on solutions. Be action driven. And a lot of times we get caught up in emotional dialogue, emotional dumping, and we lose sight of our purpose, which is to get things done, to keep the momentum going. So if we can focus on action and being pushed forward, then that is the third way that we can make sure that we can handle these situations in a very delicate way, keep people focused.
Thank you so much. I see that the sunlight is coming in on me on this side through the
It
window, but that's so beautiful.
looks like a shape of a dove.
Oh!
Yeah.
At least we have the sun. Can you imagine? We have so many states that are going through terrible snowstorms and they don't have that sunlight pouring in
Mhm.
through the window. So I'm so thankful for the sunlight pouring in through the window on me this morning. But we want to thank you so much again, Dr. Howell. Thank you so much for always being that
Welcome.
able co host that is here every morning when we are just to share with others how to manage and lead their life and leadership. We're building bridges, not walls. So we want to thank you so much again, everyone who has joined us on the three medias, LinkedIn, Facebook, and on the YouTube channel. And once again, let's keep building those bridges, one honest conversation at a time. So we want you to join us next time as we continue to explore how we can lead with integrity and connect more authentically. And the world around us will be such a better place when we do that. So don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Dr. Jan People Builder, DRJAN People Builder. And connect with us on our website, drjanisbrooks.com. I'm the same on Facebook. I'm on the same on LinkedIn, Dr. Janice Brooks. Dr. Howell, please state your social media handles so persons can know how to
Oh,
find you.
just Google me. Just Google my name, Dr. Siegfried Howell. Everything will show up.
Wow, can you imagine? Dr. Howell says, just Google him. That's actually such an excellent response. Whichever media you want to find him on, he said, type his name in
Yeah,
Google, and you'll be able to find him.
you'll
Ladies
find
and gentlemen,
something.
thank you so much again for joining us. We'll be back here next week, God's willing. We want to wish you a great rest of your week, a weekend, and please take some time to be good to yourself. Take some time to take a breath. That's the only thing that differentiates us. But it's the only thing that together we have. Together we all have the breath. That's why you're able to be listening to me today. But it differentiates us how often we do that. Taking that deep breath. Tomorrow is another day. God bless you. And thanks again for joining us.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.